Grand rising, grand evening, grand afternoon, good people. Whatever time of day you find your eyes and your ears tuned into this Jay-Visode Casual Jay-Visations, I welcome you in. I'm CJ, CEEJAY, and at Casual Jay-Visation, we strive to create captivating conversations as we seek to engage, educate, and entertain. I'm so excited, so elated, so ecstatic for this next brother to join us on the program today. He hails from the city that has the university nicknamed the Mecca. I'm talking about the hallowed grounds of Howard University in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. He is a devoted father, a poet, a writer, a certified personal trainer through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. And for the purpose of this Jay-Visation, he is a historian. I welcome to the program my brother DeAndre Quarles, aka Dre. What up, Dre?
What's up? What's up? What's up? How are you guys? How are you guys? Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me on your podcast, man. So it's been a pleasure. It's been a little bit of time since the last time we encountered, and you stepped on my tour, so it's good to see you guys in the flesh again.
Yes. And what Dre is talking about, my bride surprised me with our anniversary trip to DC last year in August. And Dre was on one of the bus tours providing some great historical Black history on the city of Washington. And man, so I thought it would be dope for him to join on the program. And so here he is live and in person on Casual Jay-Visation. So man, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us and give and drop some knowledge as well. So I want to start here. How did you get involved with Black history, and how important is it for you to keep Black history alive and in the forefront?
My introduction to Black history was college. So unbeknownst to me, I attended the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and that's Eastern Shore, Maryland. There's two pioneers that grew up there. You have Harriet Tubman, she's from Wacomico County. You have Frederick Douglass, he's from Talbot County. And I just attended to get a degree in accounting. I didn't know it was going to shape who I became today, but it's very important in my foundation because while I was there as a young Black man, I had a daughter, and as she grew up, I knew that she was going to be placed in the hands of other educators.
Yeah,
and I didn't really appreciate that being her inception to Black history.
right.
So for me, it was important to set the foundation at home. And fortunately enough for me, I got so good at it that I get paid for it.
That's what I'm talking about. Basically, what you're saying is you pursue your passion and you'll never have to work a day in your life.
Not at all.
I heard that. Now, let me just say to the good people, they typically see me in a bow tie because my logo is a microphone and a bow tie. But since we're going to talk about Black history in DC in the month of Black history of February, I decided to put on something Black.
I appreciate it. And you have the Black Panther shirt on. I'm not going to get into Jackie Robinson right now, but I love the reference.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely. So let's kick it off, man, with the we're going to talk about the Washington Monument and how it's important, its status. But what people don't know about the Washington Monument, because if you Google, it tells you nothing about the monument as it relates to people who look like you and me. Speak on that, Dre.
Man, so the Washington Monument, it's a structure that's almost old as time and older than time. It comes from Mesopotamia. It's from Hammurabi's code, but it's most known in Egypt. And the original names are beams of light. They're called tekhenus. And essentially, it's the connection of the pharaoh's ka to the sun god Ra. And culturally, it's a Black structure. It's a symbol of power. What a lot of people don't know is that because Rome was so fascinated with them, they started mass producing them. So instead of
Mm.
people associating these structures with Black history, they're actually associated more with Anglo-Saxon history, which is something that I don't necessarily think should be the case. I think people should go back to the roots.
Wow. I mean, you just dropped literally a boatload of nuggets in just in that one response, because many people are not going to relate the monument back to Egypt.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Um,
So, oh, go ahead.
um, and I think that there's a lot to explain how deeply and sadly speaking we have been indoctrinated to a different understanding of world history.
Mhm.
Nothing society based goes back to Africa, and everything should. So that's just the foundation.
Yeah, well, it's called the motherland for a reason.
Yes, yes, that is so true.
Right. The cradle. It is called the motherland for a reason. Now, when we toured the Washington Monument, it is a very solid structure, obviously. Um,
Hmm.
Take us on a bit of a journey on how the monument was built.
Man, so the cornerstone of the Washington Monument was actually started in 1848. So at its inception, I'm giving you a time period.
Mhm.
1848, that's over 12 years before they would even think of a civil war. So that means it was actually built in a period of time where Washington, D.C. was very accepting of slavery. And so the foundational stones of the Washington Monument was built by us, dedicated to a person who is known for owning at minimum 577 humans. Because I'm in Washington, D.C., I feel like the best thing for me to do instead of just talking about it is giving you a physical reference. So I'm walking to the monument.
Man,
I'll
we
show it
have
to you.
breaking news, good people. This is what Casual Jay-Visode does. We take you to the source, right? And you can't get this on any other program. I'm just saying that just because I don't think you can, but you probably can. But most likely you don't. You this is your first time, so this is awesome. This is awesome. I thought that's what you was doing, but I was like,
So
I don't want to spill the beans just yet.
so here's the deal. I'm gonna flip my camera for you guys so you can see exactly where I'm going.
Wow, this is so cool.
So you see that we're on Constitution Avenue, and as we get close, you'll see that we're in the heart of the Federal Triangle. So you're
Okay.
literally getting live footage of downtown Washington, D.C. And so
Wow.
there's a blue sign right here that says Federal Triangle. Boom, let
Wow.
me knock that out the park for you.
Nice.
And if you pan to your right hand side, you can
Uh-huh.
actually see the Washington Monument. But I'll make it a little bit better for you. I'm going to get smack dab in the middle of the next one and show it to you. So, what a lot of people don't identify is actually something that you can see in movies. So, one of
Mhm.
the best movies to ever illustrate the Washington Monument is Spider-Man Far From Home. As he
Okay.
was scaling, as he was scaling the side of the structure, he actually walked through different color variations. And the base of the Washington Monument is very solid material. It's marble.
Mm.
But then all of a sudden, the marble stops. And it stops at about a third of the way up. And then it proceeds to go to a different material. The secondary material for the Washington Monument's architecture is granite.
Okay.
And just right there is explaining a time period change. Uh,
Mm.
so at its base, the first 6 years of the Washington Monument was actually being manufactured during the slave era, and then it was paused for nearly 2 decades. It wasn't reestablished until 1877. And for those of you who follow presidential elections, that was when the Ohio-born Rutherford B. Hayes was elected. And he wasn't just elected by the people. He didn't win the popular vote. It was a draw. So with draws comes electoral college. And those of us who have been suffering in America for the last 8 years, we know how that can sway a vote. But back then they had a lot more political pull. In the southern states, they literally asked for the removal of the Union military. That's a deep question. That's a deep statement. Removing the Union military from the South means it's no longer forcing integration.
Okay. Wow. Which led to obviously other things from a historical perspective.
Yes, from a historical perspective, it led to them changing the entire dynamics of politics. By 1905, there was no longer any African Americans in any state anywhere in this country that was a part of politics. That is the inception of what you would call the phenomenon of Jim Crow. As it pertains to the Washington Monument, that means the second 2/3 of the structure was built with paid labor that were not Black people.
Okay.
And now that we are in the center of the National Mall, you can actually see it. Sorry for the ice cream truck, but I felt like this was necessary.
Perfect. Perfect.
So the gigantic pencil in the middle of the city, right there.
Yes.
That's the Washington Monument. This is the heart of DC. What makes this structure interesting is that it's a Black structure built by Black people dedicated to a slave owner.
Wow. And which slave owner was that?
The first president of the United States of America, George Washington. So that's very impactful for me personally, because not a lot of people connected to their family's royalty. And when you study these structures, or any structure like this in North Africa or Egypt, or what they would call it, they're typically indicators of a burial site. So just outside of a pyramid, you will find a pair of obelisks.
Okay.
Technically a welcoming. And a lot of the original maps of this country came for the Moorish principles. Again, those are Black people.
Right.
So
right.
So I'm here. And Washington Monument is a fascinating thing, and you can bridge the legacy of where it's located with an astronomer. His name is Benjamin Banneker.
Yeah, and we're going to get into Benjamin Banneker here in just a few moments, but I wanted to ask you, when you're providing your tours and you start to speak on the Washington Monument, let's say if you had 50 people on a tour guide, and you mentioned and you dropped the knowledge and the nuggets that you just provided, about how many people would know that kind of knowledge about the Washington Monument, and that it was built by us, and also the background of how the monument came to be by way of Egypt?
Nobody. I've been doing an African American history and culture tour for 2 years now. In fact, this coming March will be my 2-year anniversary. And everybody I've given this information to, they immediately deferred to their phone. And they had to look it up. And it's funny that everything I would say they would be reading almost verbatim. And now I have their attention. For me, that's the exact impact I want. Right. I want them to have to critically think to find out the true history of what they're seeing.
Right, exactly. Wow, man, that is so impactful, and how there's so much that we can really dive into in regards to what we don't know about the Washington Monument and Washington, D.C. But now, since you alluded to Benjamin Banneker, we'll go ahead and segue to Mr. Benjamin Banneker. Why is he so important in the historical perspective of DC, Dre?
So Benjamin Banneker, to keep it short, he was the person who finished Washington, D.C.
Mhm.
So without an African American mind, you wouldn't even have the design of the federal city we currently celebrate. Um, and he doesn't necessarily come from the greatest background. He's the son of a ex-slave, so his father actually saw servitude.
Mhm.
Uh, he was privileged to a degree because he went to a Quaker school, so he was exposed to certain sciences. But he got his ideals of math from West Africa because of his family lineage. So he
Right.
was always connected to the original algebraic codes. So he's a pioneer. And the story for Banneker is pretty amazing because they tried to outsource the creation of Washington D.C. to several other people, and one of them was even the contribution of our founding father Thomas Jefferson. Not a lot
Okay.
of people know that Thomas Jefferson tried to design the federal city, but his design came up extremely short. It was only the span of an 8 block radius, and he's
The eight
considered one of the
block.
he 8 city blocks is all Thomas Jefferson had for the design of Washington, D.C.
Okay. And how many city blocks is it now?
Washington, D.C. is a 64-mile parameter city.
Much larger scale.
Exactly. In comparison to Thomas Jefferson's design and the design that we have, Thomas Jefferson's design of Washington, D.C. wouldn't even cover the U.S. Capitol.
Wow.
That's the U.S. Capitol.
Wow. Look at there. Look at there, good people. We're doing this with this brother Dre. Let me just recap. You are, if you're just now joining us, we're on Casual Jay-Visations. I'm CJ. I'm talking with DeAndre Quarles, aka Dre. He is a historian giving us a black perspective, basically black history in DC. And he is out in the public view, good people, giving us a live upfront close and personal chat and view of Washington, D.C. Now, let's get back to Brother Banneker. Now, the city of Washington, or D.C., the District of Columbia, should I say, it has a unique shape to the city. Am I right?
Yes. So it has an original shape and it has a current shape. The original shape of Washington, D.C. was a 10-mile by 10-mile diamond.
Mhm.
That's an important key to the history of our founding fathers. Uh, and the Mason principles, the diamond has always been a symbol of power. And so for the federal government, this is literally the area that they decided would be the area of this nation's power. So it was originally designed by a diamond, like a diamond, 10-mile by 10-mile area diamond. And in the heart of the diamond, you have the most important piece of government, which is the U.S. Capitol, which in my perspective is currently on my left-hand side.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Well, and why do you think Benjamin Banneker does not get the national cred for completing the design of Washington?
Man, Banneker as a person, he doesn't get much credit for any of his accolades. And the easiest way to explain this is the narrative of the American story uh, sounds better when the author comes from a certain community.
Okay.
So it's only right for them to give the people who they desire to be at the forefront the credit. So you have a Frenchman who is Pierre Lafont, who never actually finished a design. And then you have his second in command, Andrew Ellicott, who couldn't finish the designs. And so typically when you hear of Washington, you hear of Pierre Lafont or Andrew Ellicott, but Banneker, he is almost an undertone. In fact, when they cover his legacy, they call him the overseer of their design.
Hmm.
That's just minimalizing his legacy.
Hmm. Because he was much more than overseer. When we say overseer, you're that equates to a general contractor.
Yes, he's just the manager of production, basically.
Right.
Uh, Banneker finished the design because no one had the design. The only reason why we have a design of Washington, D.C. is because Benjamin Banneker redrew this entire city by memory in 2 days. And for those of you who are fans of hard copy books, it's in his original biography.
Wow. Now let me ask you this. How did when Peter could not finish it and the other gentleman and Banneker came into being, how did Banneker and the powers that be come to say, okay, yeah, we'll select you to actually complete the design of Washington? How did that play out?
So Benjamin Banneker was hired by Thomas Jefferson.
Okay.
That's an
Okay.
interesting twist of events. Um, because there's a lot of humility that comes with a person who's said to be a prestigious member of American history to hire or hire out to somebody else to finish a design.
Mhm.
But no one else can do it. No one else has the expertise to complete this city besides Banneker. So he had to be entrusted. But that's just like every other major thing in Washington D.C. They had to entrust the outsourcing of creation to people who knew what they were doing.
Right. Right. Wow. Man, I mean, just those two alone, and I'm pretty sure there's some more in-depth information that we can dive into with that. But just from those two entities alone, oh, there
Hmm.
we go. Just on those two entities alone, there's so much information, so much knowledge, and so many nuggets in that alone. So now, give us a a wrap up on really just the city of Washington and what critical role it plays in Black history.
Man, no matter what variation of history you go into, Washington D.C. played an extreme role. For the Civil War, this is where the first colored troops came from. You have
Mm.
Prince Hall Masonic Island. For World War One, this is where over 5,000 Black troops came home and they suffered through Red Summer. Uh, as it pertains to World War II, this is where the original March on Washington concept took place. But Dr. Martin Luther King's mentor, 1941, A. Philip Randolph, that led to the desegregation of military, Executive Order 8802. And
Mhm.
so you can actually take Washington, D.C. through every version of history, and it's important. Of course, you started this podcast with discussing the Mecca. And the only reason why Howard University exists is because during the Civil War, it was a hospital dating as far back as 1862 called Freedmen's Hospital. This is why it's named Howard. He was a military general, Oliver Otis Howard. So,
Wow.
I mean, there's so much stuff in Washington that's just Black history. It's insane.
Basically, Washington, D.C. is dripping in Black history, and we sometimes
You can never have too much barbecue sauce.
never to have, you better believe it, especially the good finger licking barbecue sauce.
Yes, that's the only way you gotta have it.
Now, Dre, tell us, what company do you actually provide the tours for? So if people came to DC, they know which tour company to get on and to make sure they get the proper knowledge.
Yo, so I work for a company that's Black owned. It's called USA Guided Tours. We are also in New York, but you can look us up online and you just type in the African American History and Culture Tour. You're gonna see my face. And that's how you know it's us.
That they'll know then that it's legit.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Well, man, I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your schedule to not only join us on Casual Conversations, but also give us an actual visual perspective out in plain view. And it's such a beautiful day there right now as well. So, man,
Yes.
thank you for that. Well, any parting words as we get ready to take us out?
Absolutely, man. You can always reach me on my social media platforms. Uh, CT Fit. You can check me out there. Always
Dre,
step.
repeat that one more time. Your feed cut off a little bit.
So you can always reach me at Dre_CP Fit. That's my Instagram page. You can always reach me through the company, or you can always reach me through CJ. That's how we're going to do it. I always like to give people words of affirmation. So every day is a new day. Every step is a part of your journey. Don't be afraid to experience it. Don't be afraid to take that next step. Thank you.
Mm. Words from a wise brother. Good people, thank you so much to Dre and your historical perspective on the Black history of DC. I greatly appreciate you again coming on to the show. We definitely will be talking again about some other things as well. So again, if you had just joined us, this is Casual Jay-Visode. I am CJ Joseph. You can keep up with me on all social platforms. I am CJ Joseph, or Casual Jay-Visations on Facebook. And thank you, good people, for tuning in. And I pray that your today is better than yesterday and your tomorrow is better than today. Until the next time, be blessed.